It could be truly said that I have a bat in my belfry. What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Raudeza Reviews. I'm Raudeza. I hope everybody had a great new year. I hope you're getting started off to a great new year and maybe kind of sticking to those New Year's resolutions. I know I will be in making sure that I get more reviews out in a timely manner. Well, let's go ahead and get started. We've got some really cool things coming up. I've got a lot of things that I'm going to review for you, so a lot of new things, and some holdovers from 2024 that I didn't exactly get to, but rest assured, we're definitely going to get to them. So 1989 was a stellar year for me personally. I think I was in the 7th grade and had just the most amazing time. And in the movies, in terms of the DC universe, if you want to call it that back then, we had a mind-blowing Batman film, which really changed and kind of did away with that campy version of the 1960s. This Batman came back and was the original Dark Knight, or the Dark Knight reinvented, so to speak, and it was absolutely terrifying for me as a kid. Even though I was 14, this is the first time I was ever scared shitless of Batman. Tim Burton gave us a very unique vision of what the Dark Knight is supposed to be, and I gotta say, the Gothic in Gothic is really there with Tim Burton. Just like for those who grew up in the 1970s, Christopher Reeve will always be the Superman that they knew growing up, and for me, as a 14-year-old in 1989, Michael Keaton will always be the Batman that I knew growing up, and it absolutely blew me away. So today we're going to be reviewing Hot Toys version of the 89 Batman version 2.0, the 1/6 scale figure. Let's take a closer look. Now, immediately when I took this out of the huge packaging, I was very impressed, particularly with the head sculpt. Now, this is just not a rehash or a reskin of the original 1.0 version, so to speak. You can see that subtle differences were made to make it more movie accurate. I always love this version of Batman costume, especially in how jagged it looks. The cowl is fantastic, and this was definitely made for the sculpt of Michael Keaton, and you can absolutely see him in here a lot more, I think. Even though that original head sculpt was not that bad, this one is very much improved, and I gotta say, I was a little worried that this was just going to be a re-release, but gotta say there's enough improvements there to warrant getting this figure. I also love the bat symbol from the 1989 film. It was exclusive to that movie, and it still looks awesome here. Now, the overall head sculpt and the cowl are not the only things that have changed. You can definitely see some subtle variations in the armor set in the midsection, particularly in the upper torso. Also, there is much more of a sheen on this body. In other words, the other one was a little bit flat. This one has more of a shine to it, especially in the trousers, and you can definitely see the differences. The textures are very different. Now, the muscular structure in the midsection is relatively the same, along with the bat utility belt. I still like that solid kind of yellow. I really like that they made it or left it movie accurate. Now, the lower section, you can definitely see the difference, especially in the trousers, or I don't know, it's kind of a unibody costume, so to speak, but there is definitely a shine here, and I think the boots have subtle differences in the overall color palette. I do like that they improved the ball joint system. The original one was a little bit stiff, but here you can actually see where you can manipulate it in such a way that you can get it flat and get some much more dynamic poses in the original one. And I think that's a good thing, especially given the motif and the base, which we'll get into in a moment. Really like that they made this version of the Batman suit a little bit less rigid. Now, with the 1.0 version, I guess we're going to call it that now, there was a lot of problems with the original cape, and I actually had to get a custom cape made for that suit, and I'll show it to you in a minute. Now, to their credit, I think Hot Toys took the complaints and the feedback to heart and really made some improvements to this cape. It's not fantastic, but as you can see, it is much more malleable, much more movie accurate. The textures are a little better, it looks a little bit more high quality, and as a result of those subtle improvements, you can get some really good dynamic poses, and you can get some epic flowing in the wind type of cape stuff, which, as you can see, looks great here. Now, this is really the selling point for this figure and what makes it a 2.0, and less of just a figure, but also more of a diorama. Now, you get this awesome base, and I'm going to show you the front of it, with this amazing gargoyle, which just looks absolutely fantastic. You know it's plastic, but it's sculpted in a way that looks like actual stone. The overall art design is really fantastic, very gothic. It has this almost demon quality to it, and I love the way that its hands are positioned, almost like it's ashamed of itself. The cool thing about this piece is that it actually rotates 360, so you can move it into position into anywhere you want in terms of how you want to display it. Just some excellent detail in the stone, the crumbling, the oxidation. This is just absolutely beautiful, and it's big. It's definitely a centerpiece. So if you want to mirror this piece, definitely do so. Now the base itself is just fantastic. It's the motif, that final conflict in the belfry or the bell tower. Just look at the attention to detail here. The wood looks absolutely fantastic. Just the splinters from the planks, the wear, it looks really great. Looks like it's been there for hundreds of years. And on the lip of the base, it does read Batman with this like silver plaque, which is really cool. It really defines this piece. Again, you have to remember the beauty and the stone and just everything that makes this thing look very fantastic. In terms of a centerpiece, this is going to look great on your shelf. It's just very eye-catching, and I just love what they did here. And this is what really makes it, or really puts this figure over for me. Now, if that wasn't impressive enough, I think a cacophony of accessories is really not the word for this. It's kind of small. This is really cool. You actually get Vicky Vale's heel, which I never thought would be in a Batman figure, but nevertheless it's there. You get the Batarang. This does work on the PERS system, so you have the tool to move the eyes independently. You remember in that scene where that guy with the two blades comes jumping out at him and throws himself, and he like puts that hand out to extend that triangle and basically crushes his nuts? That's pretty cool that we got that tool. You also get 2 shurikens, 3 darts, 1 single grapple gun, the poles that actually extend the cape out. But I think the coolest thing is the double prong grapple gun, which he uses in the Joker's face at the museum, which is really awesome. And then of course you get 2 face plates. One of them is a little bit more of a grimace, the other one is more battle damage. Now in terms of bang for buck, holy crap, you definitely get a lot of accessories here, and this alone is worth the price of admission in my opinion. And as always, finally rounding out the last bit of accessories are 6 additional hands for various functions, and you guys know the definition by now if you've been watching the show. Every single hand has a function that fits a tool, which is really awesome. So you can get some really nice dynamic poses, just various ways on how you want to display this piece. Add to the fact that it's very malleable, and the suit allows you to move and breathe and just make those awesome dynamic poses. You can really go nuts here. So definitely utilize them. You certainly have enough accessories. I mean, holy crap, I just covered that. So many of them. Now obviously before this review is done, we were going to do a quick comparison between the 2 figures. Now the thing that I noticed immediately about the head sculpt is a little bit less bulbous on the 2.0 version than the 1.0 version, but it's still Michael Keaton, and the faceplates fit a little different. Then of course there's the finishes. As you can see, there's more of a matte finish on this with the exception of the boots than there are on the actual 2.0 version. It is very matte, and you can tell. That's a custom cape, by the way, so I gotta be fair and open and honest. And here you can see that there's definitely a sheen. This cape of course is more malleable because it is the 2.0 version. Really didn't get that so much in the original. And of course you can see where the brow is a little bit less bulbous in the overall head sculpt, whereas on the 1.0 version it's a little bit more profound. But nevertheless, I still think they both look like Michael Keaton, but there are enough improvements here. But of course I got 2 of them, so it is what it is. So here are my final thoughts. This is definitely a legendary figure. It's just so freaking awesome. Add to the fact the subtle improvements and just kind of like the updated, I guess, sculpt, so to speak, and it is definitely in a more kind of diorama motif, which just looks absolutely brilliant. I love that scene in the bell tower. It was just absolutely amazing. So if you have the 1.0 version, do you need to upgrade to this one? You don't necessarily need to, but I'd say yes, definitely, because there are enough improvements in this one, especially if you missed out on the original one, because that one is very expensive right now. This one is still relatively priced. You know, Hot Toys figures are increasing in price, sadly. I hope that they don't continue that trend of overpriced figures, but you should definitely pick this one up, even if you have the 1.0, because there are differences in the overall art style, and I think that's very important. The other one is more of a traditional Hot Toys figure. This is more of a diorama piece, and it's a great centerpiece. I think it's really awesome. Definitely pick this one up. Alright everybody, so that's my official review on Hot Toys version of the 89 Batman, the 2.0 version, the 1/6 scale figure. As always, I thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next Raudeza Reviews.